ang in charge at siya ang nagsasabi kung sino ang pwedeng pumasok at hindi pumasok. Kausap namin yung aming ICC lawyer and sinabi niya this has never happened before at sinabi niya na it's craziness.
Inaasahan po naman sasalita ngayon si BBM sa publiko. Anong inaasahan nyo? Ano mga paliwanag ba or appreciation pa rin? Ano bang inaasahan nyo doon?
Ano pa bang pag diba? Nagbigay nga siya ng statement ng 20 pesos per kilo na bigas. So ano pa bang aasahan natin sa mga statements ng Pangulo? Nakikita naman natin kung ano yung ginagawa nila, na panggigipit nila. Hindi na tayo member ng ICC at noong final yung ICC complaints, out of time na sila. Ni-raise natin yan ilang beses, wala silang jurisdiction. Pero tayo lang sa buong mundo ang bayan o bansa na nagko-cooperate sa ICC. Para tayong doormat. The Philippines is like a doormat for other countries, not just the ICC. No? Kung sino man yung sumasamantala sa ating bayan. Yeah. Nakakalungkot dahil saan ka ba nakahanap ng bayan na yung kanyang citizen mismo ibibigay niya sa dayuhan. Nakakahiya bilang isang Pilipino.
But were you able to talk to your dad kung ano po yung sitwasyon niya currently nung bago siya umakyat at currently na nakaakyat na siya dun sa train?
Nagkausap kami kanina pero medyo choppy kasi yung signal dun sa loob kasi ginajam yung signal. Naintindihan ko lang naman sa kanya, sabi niya na wala tayong magagawa. Parang the way I say it, sabi niya, that's life, kaya sira-sira. But then I told him na some instructions on what to say and what to do. Pero sa totoo lang, dapat hindi talaga yan umalis ng bansa si former President Rodrigo Duterte.
Pag umalis po, susunod po ba kayo?
Yes, meron na pong arrangements kasi kailangan ko kausapin yung mga abogado doon kung saan man siya dalhin. Pupunta kami, ako, at pupunta yung mga abogado and doon kami mag-uusap kung ano yung mga gagawin.
Tingin niyo ba tama yung naging proseso sa warrant of arrest?
Ay hindi talaga. Kasi nakalagay sa rules ng ICC, the defendant should be taken to a court, a local court. Dapat dinala siya sa korte. At yung proseso natin dito sa loob, yun yung masusunod para sa pag-implement ng warrant.
What were your instructions to the president? What were your instructions to your father?
About legal matters lang, no. So sinabihan ko siya na kung ano yung sasabihin at gagawin for his lawyer.
Bibi, ano pong plano niyo? Bakit po kayo nagpunta dito? Gusto niyo po ba sana makausap din si father?
And then sinabihan ko din siya na wag tumanggap ng pagkain sa tubig kahit kanino. I understand nag-prepare sila ng go bag. Nag-usap kami kanina doon sa assistant handa ng go bag. So
Hindi kayo pinapasok? Ano pong plano niyo dito ngayon?
Well, nag-aantay ako. Papasukin nila dahil gusto ko makausap personal. Mahirap kasi sa video call kasi choppy. Ginajam nila yung signal. Kailangan ko siya kausapin.
Ma'am, Duterte kami ma'am, kahit ano mangyari. Hindi namin siya iiwanan. Kahit ano mangyari, hindi namin siya iiwanan.
Maraming salamat.
Bibi Sara, sabi ni Attorney Raul Lambino, nagrant na daw yung TRO. Any update po dito?
Wala po akong update sa temporary restraining order ng Supreme Court. But as I said, lahat ng mga tao dyan sa loob ng base at dyan sa airport, kung Pilipino ka, hindi ka papayag na ginagawa ito.
Were you surprised? If you tumanggi daw po were you surprised by this, by
moment that I was still in the cabinet when this was mentioned, and the moment that I talked to the Justice Secretary, and then I noticed that he had very vague answers. We already started to prepare, but I have a different set of lawyers than President Duterte, so we have a book about what to do and all the research materials about ICC. So that is what we did, and then we shared our drafted petition. We had two for me. We shared it with the team of PRRD.
VP, I know this may be a sensitive question, but have you reached out to the President itself
No.
regarding the matter?
No,
Why not?
because the way that they are doing it right now, there's no talking to the President. Because it's very easy for him to say, do not turn him over to the ICC. You can detain him here, wherever in the Philippines, but do not send him wherever the ICC says.
You have a message to BBM.
BPTF, if ever na madala kayo sa Hague si dating nga Pangulong Marcos, kailan po ba lang?
Ay, siya, padala mo doon.
Oh, sorry.
Dating Pangulo na siya.
Yes.
Very soon. Ano?
Very soon, why?
Ano
Yes,
ano?
Very soon.
If ever
Ano po
nadala
message
niya
niyo
ngayon
kay
sa Hague,
BBM?
kailan po kayo susunod doon?
Okay. Well, nag-aantay. And then, immediately, pag pinilit nila kung ano yung gusto nila at hindi yung tama, susunod ako. Kasi kailangan ko kausapin yung mga abogado.
Ma'am,
BBM
very
message
soon, why?
na
Bakit ba? Ay,
Ha?
Sa tingin niyo po ba nagiging personal na po?
Oo. Very personal. Nakikita nyo naman. Nakafile sila ng impeachment ng ang basis nila is hearsay and gossip. So, it's very personal. At sabi nga ng lahat ng kumukwestiyon sa ginagawa ng administrasyon ngayon, this is a diversion from the failures to deliver good governance and decent public service to the Filipinos.
Message po kay BBM.
Wala akong message sa kanya. I don't think there's talking to a person who will allow a citizen to be turned over to foreigners.
BP, can you confirm hindi ba kayo pinayagan pumasok or nakita kayo ng clearance?
Hindi kami pinayagan. Ilang beses na kami na paalam, paulit-ulit. So, hindi kami pinayagan.
Sara, bilang simpleng mamamayan, ano yung pwede namin magawa para kay Tatay Diggs?
Accountability. Transparency and accountability from the government. Tinatanong natin kung anong nangyari sa PhilHealth. Diba? Tinatanong natin kung anong nangyari sa budget. Diba?
Kami nagulong, sila nakikinabang.
Huwag nilang ilihis yung usapan sa mga gawa-gawa nila na mga akusasyon.
What's your message to the critics of the former president saying that he had it coming?
Sila nakikinabang.
What's your message to the critics of your father that he had it coming?
Sugal ng mga tao yun.
There is no legal basis at all to turn over or to endorse the president, the former president, to ICC. So, wala silang, kung para sila sa justice at sa batas, walang batas dito eh. So, nasaan sila? So, does that mean na parang he had it coming even if hindi sumusunod sa batas? Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, diba? Sabi ko, gagawin nila kung anong gusto nila kahit hindi tama. Gagawin nila kung anong gusto nila kahit mali.
Ma'am, tumanggilan po yung DFA. Sabi ng DFA, hindi sila nakikipag-usap sa ICC. Pero may issue, ma'am, na ang nasa likod daw po nito is si former Senator Trillanes.
Well, siya yung nag-file. Diba? Siya yung nag-file ng complaints and siya naman yung nagbibigay ng updates about sa ICC. Lagi naman tayo ina-update Trillanes sa mga nangyayari sa ICC. So yes, of course, siya din ang nasa likod nito.
Ma'am, next move lang, sorry ha. Kasi crucial itong gabi nito, pag hindi may labas yung PRO, ano next move nyo?
Wala. Hawakan ko ba yung bulong ng airplane na yan?
Sige, stop mo.
How are you feeling na?
Yes. Sinasabi ko lang sa inyong lahat, kung Pilipino kayo, huwag kayong pumayag na ang isang Pilipino ibigay sa mga dayuhan. Lalong-lalo na pag labas na sa batas yun. It's actually some sort of, I don't know, what do you call it? State kidnapping? Parang ganyan na yung nangyayari. And all because,
Kahit kumakain kami dito, para kay Duterte to. Tama.
and
Para
all
kay Duterte to, baka kumakain tayo.
because,
Wait lang po, wait lang ha. Pagkapunin si Vice President. Go, Vice. Go, Vice.
kalimutan.
Wait,
Kahit kumakain kami dito.
Sa PRO,
Pero pa rin.
Kalimutan.
State kidnapping. State kidnapping ka na lang.
Yes. And all because mukhang matatalo sila sa midterm elections. Dahil ang lakas ng vote rate sa 9 candidates ng PDP laban. At mag-ingat kayo ha. I warned you about the budget.
Pero ko ma'am.
I'm warning all of you about election cheating.
Tama ko ma'am.
Ano do you think should be held accountable dito sa mga nangyaring senaryo ngayong araw na to?
Sino? Ang entire administration. Yes.
Ma'am, pag di natin magpupresidente, hindi na ako presidente. Ma'am.
Yes. Kasi sobrang lakas ng block voting ngayon. Lumalakas at nag-snowball yung block voting ng 9 candidates ng PDP laban. At hindi lang yan. This is all about the 2028 elections. And I'm warning you, kung meron man 2028 elections. Nakita nyo na, diba? Sinimulan nila sa People's Initiative. Hindi sila nagtagumpay. Kasi umalma yung mga tao. Imagine mo, bibilhin yung pagkatao mo para sa kagustuhan nila na hindi umalis sa pwesto. Tapos, sumunod ay impeachment para tanggalin yung kalaban, posibleng kalaban. Ngayon, dahil lumalakas yung PDP block voting of 9 candidates, natanggalin nila si President Duterte.
Mamulitin ko lang po, kumusta po yung huling pag-uusap niyo po?
Okay naman siya. Sinasabi niya kanina, sabi ko, nandito ako sa labas ng gate, hindi ako makapasok. Sabi ko, hindi kita personal na mabigyan ng instructions, pero tinext ko na, sabi ko, minessage ko sa kanila lahat na kung sino man yung nandun sa loob, ano yung kailangan mong gawin. And then he said na, huwag ka na magantay dyan, umuwi ka na. So, hindi ko rin naman magawa na iwanan ng ating dating Pangulo. Hindi dahil tatay ko siya, pero dahil hindi ko matanggap na nagiging doormat tayo ng mga dayuhan. I mean, ganito lang tayo, mga maliliit na mga tao kung ikumpara mo sa ibang bansa. Pero, alam mo yun, dapat may pride tayo ba?
Dapat tayo kampi-kampi Pilipino.
Ma'am, how is he taking this?
Nagkausap kami kagabi. And he was okay naman. Sabi niya lagi, idaan lang sa legal. namin, legal.
Ma'am,
Kumusta yung
babalik lang,
kalusugan
ma'am.
niya? Kumusta yung kalusugan niya? Ano napag-usapan?
O yan ang hindi ko alam kasi kung ano yung kanyang mga gamot, ano yung kanyang mga health conditions. Ang pagkakaalam ko meron talaga siyang mga health conditions kaya siya may nurse na kasama lagi. And then meron siyang mga gamot at meron siyang mga gadget na kailangan na kasama niya lagi. Then ang pagkakarinig ko kanina mataas yung sobrang taas ng blood sugar niya. Kaya nag-insulin sila.
Ma'am, how true are the reports na nangingi daw po ng asylum si former President Duterte sa China and what was denied by?
Wala. I was there in Hong Kong. Wala siyang kausap from the Chinese government. And in fact, sabi niya, kung maalala nyo, 4 p.m. yung flight niya sa Cathay Pacific, di ba? Sabi niya, agahan natin ng 7 a.m. Para makabalik na ako sa Pilipinas. That was willingly surrendering himself to the jurisdiction of Philippine authorities, not the ICC.
Ma'am, habang lumalapit yung eleksyon, ma'am, tumitindi yung personal na panggigipit. Sa tingin niyo, babaliktad dito ang lahat?
Kaya nga sinasabi ko kanina, sir, nandyan yung tao. I mean, tagalin man nila si former President Duterte sa equations at midterm elections, nandyan yung taong bayan at lumalakas yung block voting ng PDP 9 candidates. Pero sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, mag-ingat kayo sa election cheating. Matindi ito.
Ma'am, do you consider din po mga
Since tapos na po yung alliance with President Marcos, let me know kung meron bang discussion before during the campaign kung for dito second congressional o kung you ask President Marcos meron bang problem
About the ICC? No. We did not discuss anything about the
were there
ICC.
discussions before this?
No, with President Marcos, no. There were no discussions with President Marcos except that I wrote him a letter and then he replied regarding the ICC and that there will be no cooperation with the ICC. I will release that letter.
How are you
Ma'am,
feeling
kung
now? How are
mag-yes
you
Mr. Diaz, sino ba kasama niyo sa plane?
Ako hindi ko alam. Sorry. Alam ko lang yung mga hindi nakasama sa plane, yung nasa labas.
Kasama si Kitty.
Nandoon si Kitty sa labas. Yes.
And common law kayo nasa labas.
Yes, si Hanilet na nandoon din.
Ma'am, how are you feeling now? Ma'am, nakasama.
I'm okay. Ano lang ako, kulang sa tulog dahil nagbiyahe kami kanina. Pero kumain ako kanina, huwag kayo mag-alala. Hindi iinit ang ulo ko.
As Vice President, hindi ko pinapayagan. Parang kung nagagawa yung supposed to have power here.
Wala tayong magawa eh. Kung susunod sila sa yung Philippine National Police, kung susunod sila sa illegal na mga orders, wala tayong magagawa. Yun yung desisyon ng Philippine National Police. Mag-implement sila ng illegal orders. That's what they did with Yusek Zulaika Lopez. So it's not surprising that it is happening now.
Ma'am, may mga balita na kayo daw po, dinadawit po kayo dito po sa issue ng ICC. Sa tingin niyo, ma'am, baka kayo na po ang next na PPN after this?
Oo, sinabihan ako ng nanay ko. Sinabihan ako ng nanay ko, sabi niya, mag-ingat ka dahil ikaw ang susunod.
Handa na, ma'am.
Anong handa?
Kung maghahanda na
Pumasok
harapin,
doon
handa na
sa-
para malampasan, mapagtagumpayan.
Iniisip ko lang ang gastos sa abogado eh. Magastos kasi ang mga abogado. So yan lang naman yung concern natin sa ngayon. But so far, napaghandaan din naman yung gastos para sa mga abogado. Okay lang. Yes, my mother warned me about me as the next target for the ICC.
Ma'am, bakit di pala kayo magkasabay buhay na Pangulo? Parang pinapalayo ko ba niya sa circle na huwag ka na idamay ng pamumulitik?
Hindi. Kasi ano kami, kung napapansin nyo, kahit dati, hindi kami nagsasabay sa airplane. na silang mag-asawa or kaming mag-ama, hindi kami nagsasabay sa airplane kasi pag nahulog yung airplane, mauubos kami lahat. Kaya never kami nagsasabay sa mga airplanes.
Ma'am, nandito lang kami, ma'am.
Kaya hindi rin ako makapagsabi sa loob na sasama ako sa airplane na yan.
Ma'am, ito pong private plane, ito pong chartered plane na pinagsakyan po kay PRRD. Pag-aari daw po ito ng isang congressman na si Congressman Zaldico. Tama po ba?
Hindi ko alam kung sino ang may-ari nung airplane, pero nung nakita ko na sinasabi nila na galing sa Pilipinas lang yung airplane, nakikita na natin na hindi, ibig ko sabihin, ginagawa nila talaga.
Ma'am, may labag po ba dito, ma'am, sa paggamit ng private plane?
Yan ang hindi ko alam. I have to talk to ICC lawyers. Sa ngayon, ang alam lang namin is dapat siya dinala sa local authorities, local court.
Ma'am, nag-update po ba sa inyo sila Attorney Corion at Attorney Vic Rodriguez tungkol po sa certiorari petition?
Hindi. Hindi ko pa nakausap si Attorney Vic Rodriguez at si Attorney Torion. So, ang nakakausap ko si Attorney Martin Delgra ang nakakausap ko, and si Attorney Harry Roque.
Ma'am, pag naisakay po ba si former President Duterte papuntang Netherlands, do you now consider to run for 2028 presidency?
Hindi pa yan yung iniisip natin ngayon. Ang iniisip natin ngayon, unang-una, hindi dapat makaalis si President Duterte dito sa Pilipinas. At pangalawa, kung pipilitin man ng gobyerno na ipadala sa Hague si former President Rodrigo Duterte, paano natin siya mapabalik sa Pilipinas. Yan lang muna yung asikasuhin natin sa ngayon. And of course, yung pangangampanya ng 9 candidates ng PDP laban.
Ma'am, sabi nila ma'am, may sinabi si Attorney Dixie Angeles, ngayon lang po ma'am, after po na maisakay sa chartered Lear jet si PRRD. Ang sabi niya po, kapag pumalis itong aeroplanong to, mananawagan tayo ng people power. Ano po reaction, ma'am?
Hindi ko kasi nabasa or narinig yung kanyang statement, so hindi ako makakomment sa kung anong nasabi ni Attorney Trixie.
Pero sinusuportahan niyo po ito, ma'am?
Hindi yan ang concern ko ngayon. Ang concern natin lahat ngayon ay paano mapanatili dito sa Pilipinas si President Rodrigo Duterte. So tulungan ninyong ng taong bayan, tulungan ninyo kami mag-isip kung paano natin yan magawa na hindi siya umalis dito sa
Ma'am,
Pilipinas.
tutulungan namin ang
BP, sabi po ni Attorney Delgra,
Duterte!
huling-huling po po nila ng ang father niyo po ay makita kayo, makausap kayo, pero hindi pinagbigyan. How do you feel about it?
Well, hindi na nakakagulat yung ganyan na klase na panggigipit sa kanila. Parang I was born in 1978, no? So hindi ko na wala pa akong masyado pa akong bata para maalala ko. Pero kung tanungin mo yung mga senior citizens ngayon kung anong nangyari, matindi daw talaga panggigipit, oppression, abuse, and greed, sabi ng mga nakakatanda.
Pero ma'am, kumpiyansa kayo na hindi makakalipad ang aeroplano?
Wala akong confidence sa kahit ano ngayon, sir, kasi nakikita nga natin kahit ang ating kapulisan, sumusunod sila sa mga illegal orders. So, kahit kita nyo naman yung pag-file ng impeachment kahit walang basihan. Diba? Okay?
Final words na.
Final words!
Duterte! Duterte!
Mamaya na po.
Duterte!
Mamaya na po.
Duterte! Duterte! Duterte!
Ang final words natin, huwag tayo malihis sa totoong problema ng bayan. Ang totoong problema ay ang presyo. Ang mahal na presyo ng bilihin, ang kahirapan ng ating mga tao, ang korupsyon sa ating budget, ang kawalan ng development projects, ang nangyari sa PhilHealth, ang nangyari sa ngayon na tila ba we are stagnant, hindi tayo umuurong forward. Nandito lang tayo nakatayo at walang nangyayari sa bayan, walang nangyayari tungkol sa kahirapan. Yan yung totoong problema ng bayan. Hindi yung ICC, hindi yung impeachment.
Ma'am, pahabol, nakausap niyo po si President, si PBBM, ma'am?
Wala. Hindi kami nagkausap ni President Marcos. There's no talking to someone who does not follow on with his promises. Thank you.
All right, we're cutting that report of Katrina Domingo and we're bringing you the President's announcement live from Malacanang. Let's listen in.
Rodrigo Roa Duterte took off at 11:03 p.m. this evening and exited Philippine airspace. The plane is en route to The Hague in the Netherlands, allowing the former president to face charges of crimes against humanity in relation to his bloody war on drugs. The former president was earlier placed in government custody at Villamor Air Base after his common-law wife, Hanilet Avancenia, and members of his entourage arrived at 9:20 this morning from Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific flight number CX-907. Mr. Duterte was arrested in compliance with our commitments to Interpol. Hours before his arrival, Interpol Manila received an official copy of the ICC warrant. This prompted the Prosecutor General of the Department of Justice to serve the warrant. Interpol asked for help, and we obliged because we have commitments to the Interpol, which we have to fulfill. If we don't do that, they will no longer help us with other cases involving Filipino fugitives abroad. This is what the international community expects of us as the leader of a democratic country that is part of the community of nations. So I'm sure that the details that surround this what has happened today are familiar to you. I just wanted to make very, very clear and give you the facts from for the departure of former President Duterte from the Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Kanina po ay nagpaabot ng tanong ang mga miyembro ng Malacanang Press Corps at atin po itong sasagutin. Question number 1. Mr. President, meron po bang pisikal na kopya ng warrant of arrest laban kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte mula sa ICC?
Oh, meron. This came in. Actually, it came in. I received it from Secretary Remulla. I received it at 3 a.m. last night, and I looked at it, and we went back and forth. 6:30, he wrote me again, and he said, "We have it already. We have the warrant of arrest from Interpol." And I said, "Okay, we'll put all our plans into place, and sige, let's proceed as we had discussed." Now that's what happened. So yes, there is a very clear document that will explain when, how, that will explain the basis on how we conducted this arrest of former President Duterte.
Sir, is it okay if we give them a copies of the arrest warrant, photocopies of the arrest warrant? Would that be possible?
Do we have limitations on that?
We have the limitations, but we can.
We have here the SILG, who has been, of course, part and parcel of the entire operation.
We will provide the PCO with a digital copy. It has been attested by the Secretary of Justice and the Department of Justice as a lawful and legal warrant. We will publish it after this press conference, and you can use it as reference.
These are, it's very simple. It's a request to the Philippine government from Interpol to enforce the arrest warrant. And of course, we comply with our commitments to Interpol. We did not do this because it was derived from or it came from ICC. We did this because Interpol asked us to do it. And we have commitments to them, and we lived up to those commitments.
Sir, thank you, sir. Second question, sir. Mr. President, sinasabi ng kampo ni PRRD na unlawful arrest daw itong ginawang pag-aresto sa kanya.
Well, we followed every single necessary procedure. We had a very good basis on which to serve that warrant and to read him his rights. We followed all the legal procedures that are necessary. So I'm confident that if in further examination, you will find that it is proper and correct.
Sir, third question from the MPC. Mr. President, may violation ba ito sa ating soberanya itong pagkakaaresto kay dating Pangulong Duterte?
No. Bakit naman? Dahil consistent naman tayo. Hindi tayo tumutulong sa investigasyon ng ICC. Meron tayong contact sa kanila, natural. Pero no, not on an official level. We didn't help them in any way. The arrest that we did today was in compliance with our commitments to Interpol. It just so happened that came from ICC. But it's not because it came from ICC. It's because it came from Interpol.
Pang-apat po na tanong, Mr. President, sinasabi po nila na ito ay political persecution lamang at may kaugnayan din daw sa 2028 elections.
Okay, well, I'm sure sasabihin nila yan. But this case started in 2017 when we were still members of the ICC. And it was during the time of former President Duterte. So I don't see how that can be political persecution on my part, because it was initiated before I even came into the picture. So that would seem. But once again, we have to recognize that, of course, it's natural for people to put lalagyan ng politika, kulay ng politika. Pero sinundan lang natin yung ICC, yung Interpol. Hindi natin kinakausap yung ICC. Marami silang hinihingi sa atin ng mga dokumento, wala kaming binigay. Yun lamang, hindi natin mahindian ang Interpol. Pag sinabi sa atin, tulungan nyo kami, kailangan namin kunin itong taong ito. Dahil, kung maalala ninyo, lahat ng mga tumakas dito sa Pilipinas, kagaya ni Alice Go, kagaya ni Arnie Tevez, kung sino-sino pa, pati naman yung mga human trafficking sa Myanmar, pati sa mga nadadamay. Sinong tumulong sa atin para makita natin yung mga ating kababayan na inaapi at ginagamit sa masamang paraan? Ang Interpol. Kaya naman, dapat naman tayo, pagka sinabi sa atin, tulungan nyo kami sa ganito, tumulong kayo. Kaya naman, ganun ang ginawa natin.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President, sa paglilinaw ninyo. You want to ask another question?
All right, sure.
Sir, there are calls for people power. There are, in fact, as we speak, protest actions ongoing. Would you like to address the supporters of the former president?
The supporters of the former president? Well, you know, again, the government is just doing its job. Wala namang, it's not because it's one person or another that we do the things that we do. Maybe sa nung mga nakaraan na mga administrasyon, baka ganun ang ginagawa. Pero para sa akin, hindi naman ganun. Sumusunod tayo sa batas. We are a member of the community of nations. We must live up to our responsibilities, to the commitments that we have made to the community of nations. And that is what's happened here. Politics doesn't enter into it. Bakit? Why that? You know, he's never going to be a candidate for anything. Why go after him? Di ba? At saka 2017 pa ito, wala pa ako. Civilian pa ako noon. So this is the evolution of his case, and this is where we end up. Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. At dyan po nagtatapos ang ating press conference. Abangan niyo po yung mga briefings namin sa mga susunod na araw.
All right, we just heard from President Marcos Jr., of course, the much-awaited press conference that everybody was on standby for in Malacanang. President Marcos Jr. Announcing officially and confirming officially that the chartered jet carrying former President Duterte has already taken off from the Ninoy Aquino International Airport and is proceeding to The Hague in the Netherlands, where he will be brought before the International Criminal Court to face the accusation of committing crimes against humanity. President Marcos Jr. explaining that the administration was, of course, obliged to cooperate with Interpol in the same way that the Philippine government could ask for the Interpol's assistance in any future police matters. He explained that the Philippine government received a request from Interpol to enforce the arrest warrant and that his administration complied with it to also live up to the Philippines' commitments to the Interpol. President Marcos also saying that the arrest was proper and correct and disputed allegations that it violated Philippine sovereignty. The president also saying that that this was consistent with his administration's policy in not giving the ICC any help in its investigation on the Duterte war on drugs. He did admit that his administration had some contact with the ICC, but clarified that this was not on any official level to help. He also laughed off accusations that the arrest of former President Duterte was a form of political persecution that was meant to derail any of the 2028 political ambitions of the Duterte clan. He says that, or he points out that this case brought against former President Duterte had started while the Philippines was still a member of the ICC during the Duterte administration. And he says that this could not be considered as political persecution coming from him, since the case against Duterte began even before the Marcos administration started. The president also said that it is only natural that some of his critics will see some ulterior political motive behind the arrest of former President Duterte, but he says that giving the Interpol Philippine cooperation was the same as with the cooperation that we expected as a country from the Interpol in tracking down fugitives like former Negros Congressman Arnie Teves, former Bamban Mayor Alice Go, and human traffickers in Myanmar. He also downplayed calls by Duterte supporters to stage a people power uprising against the government. He says that anything that happened today with the arrest of former President Duterte was not done to target any specific person. He says that this may have been done by previous administrations, but not by his own administration. He also pointed out that former President Duterte will not be seeking any other elective political post, and which doesn't give the Marcos Jr. administration any reason to actually persecute him. The former president's daughter, Vice President Sara Duterte, spoke to the media at the Villamor Air Base in Pasay City. We'll now give you an excerpt from her speech.
Kausap namin yung aming ICC lawyer and sinabi niya, this has never happened before. At sinabi niya na it's craziness.
Inaasahan po naman sasalita ngayon si BBM sa publiko. Anong inaasahan nyo? Ano mga paliwanag ba? Or appreciation pa rin? Ano bang inaasahan nyo doon?
Ano pa bang pag diba? Nagbigay nga siya ng statement ng 20 pesos per kilo na bigas. So ano pa bang aasahan natin sa mga statements ng Pangulo? Nakikita naman natin kung ano yung ginagawa nila, na panggigipit nila. Hindi na tayo member ng ICC at noong final yung ICC complaints, out of time na sila. Ni-raise natin yan ilang beses, wala silang jurisdiction. Pero tayo lang sa buong mundo ang bayan o bansa na nagko-cooperate sa ICC. Para tayong doormat. The Philippines is like a doormat for other countries, not just the ICC, no. Kung sino man yung sumasamantala sa ating bayan. Yeah. Nakakalungkot dahil saan ka ba nakahanap ng bayan na yung kanyang citizen mismo ibibigay niya sa dayuhan. Nakakahiya bilang isang Pilipino.
But were you able to talk to your dad kung ano po yung sitwasyon niya currently nung bago siya umakyat at currently na nakaakyat na siya dun sa train?
Nagkausap kami kanina pero medyo choppy kasi yung signal dun sa loob kasi ginajam yung signal. Naintindihan ko lang naman sa kanya, sabi niya na wala tayong magagawa. Parang the way I say it, sabi niya, that's life, kaya sira-sira.
All right, let's check on developments overseas. At least 2 people are killed in Ukraine's biggest drone attack on Moscow.
All rise, veuillez vous lever. The International Criminal Court is now in session. L'audience de la Cour pénale internationale est ouverte. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Duterte est maintenant ouverte. Je souhaite la...
Good morning. I would like to welcome everyone inside and outside of the courtroom. Now, before we start with today's initial appearance, I would like to remind you that the Chamber has authorized video recordings and the taking of photographs. Please go ahead.
Je vous remercie. Vous avez une...
Thank you. You have 1 minute to take photographs and record videos.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Court officer, please, could you please call the case? Thank you, Madam President. Your Honours. The situation in the Republic of the Philippines case, the prosecutor versus Mr. Rodrigo Roa Duterte, case number ICC 0121 0125. And we are in open session.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I will now ask the parties to introduce themselves, starting with the Office of the Prosecutor. Please pause before speaking and speak slowly to allow the interpreters to interpret appropriately. May I ask you to introduce yourself and to confirm whether the list of your staff that I received prior to the hearing is correct, Mr. Prosecutor?
President, Your Honours, good morning. The list is correct. Once again, Deputy Prosecutor Manjay Niang to my left, trial lawyer Edward Jeremy behind us, trial lawyer Robin Croft, international cooperation advisor Chantel Daniels, and our very able case manager Grace Go. I'm Karim Khan, the prosecutor.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. I now turn to the counsel for the defense of Mr. Duterte. As everyone can see, Mr. Duterte is present and is attending the hearing via video link. As Mr. Duterte made a long journey involving a considerable time difference, the Chamber authorized Mr. Duterte to follow the hearing at a distance. His counsel, however, is present with us in the courtroom. Thank you, counsel. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Your Honors. I am Salvador C. Medjaldea, counsel for Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, counsel. I will now introduce the chamber. By my side, we have the Judge Reine Adelaide Sophie Alapini Gansu, the Vice President of the Court, and Judge Maria del Socorres Flores Liera. I am the presiding judge of the pretrial Chamber 1 of the Court, and my name is Julia Antonella Motok. Now, I would like to speak to you, Mr. Duterte. I'm speaking French, but you are receiving interpretation of what I'm saying in English. I understand that you are at ease in the English language and that the interview yesterday at the detention center was conducted in English and that you did not deem it necessary to request interpretation into any other language during this interview. This said, I would like firstly to confirm your identity. Could you provide us with your full names, please?
I am Rodrigo Roa Duterte. That's my first middle name is Roa. The surname is Duterte.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. What is your date of birth?
Again, ma'am.
Can we request that the question be repeated? I don't think he heard it. Thank you.
Repetition from the English booth. What is your date of birth? Yes, thank you very much, Counsel. I was asking quite simply of Mr. Duterte what his full names were, and then I subsequently asked him what his date of birth was and what his place of birth is. Is that all right, Counsel?
Yep. Of course, I did. My birth month day is March 28, 1945. I was born in the province of Leyte in the Philippines.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. As a preliminary point. Very well. Thank you, Mr. Duterte. As a preliminary point, it is useful to clarify the nature and limited scope of this first appearance hearing. Today's hearing is neither the start of the trial, nor is it a confirmation of charges hearing. During today's hearing, no evidence will be collected or presented, and the issues of Mr. Duterte's guilt or innocence will therefore not be addressed. In accordance with Article 61 of the Rome Statute, the Court's founding treaty, and Rule 1211 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, the main purpose of this initial appearance is to answer 3 questions. Firstly, the Chamber must ensure that the person who was the subject of the arrest warrant has been informed of the crimes of which he is accused. Second, the Chamber must ensure that this person has been informed of his rights as recognised by the Rome Statute. Third, the Chamber must set a date on which it intends to hold a confirmation of charges hearing. The Chamber notes that your counsel, Mr. Duterte, filed 2 motions, one in relation with today's hearing, and you may be aware that these 2 motions have not been accepted by the Chamber because of the nature of today's hearing. No further discussion on the matter is necessary during this hearing because, as I said at an earlier stage, the aim of this hearing today is to introduce the parties and to ascertain the charges and to set a date for the confirmation of charges hearing at a later stage. With regard to the first point, I recall that Mr. Duterte has received a copy of the warrant for his arrest and that a redacted version of the prosecutor's application for the issuance of the warrant of arrest is public. I will now ask the court officer to read the charges against him. The charges will be read in English. Please, over to you, Madam Courtroom Officer. Thank you, Madam President. Your honours.
On 7 March 2025, Pre-Trial Chamber 1 concluded that there were reasonable grounds to believe that Mr. Duterte is criminally responsible pursuant to Article 25(3)(a) of the Rome Statute as an alleged indirect co-perpetrator for the crime against humanity of murder pursuant to Article 7(1)(a) of the statute as follows. A. Murder of at least 19 persons, allegedly drug pushers or thieves, killed by members of the Davao Death Squad in various locations in or around Davao City Philippines between 2011 and 2016. B. Murder of at least 24 persons, allegedly criminals, such as drug pushers or thieves or drug users, killed by or under the supervision of members of the Philippines law enforcement, sometimes with the assistance of persons who were not part of the police, at various locations in the Philippines between 2016 and 2019.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la...
Thank you, Madam Courtroom Officer. Mr. Duterte, I'm not going to ask you to stand up because I know your condition, so I'm going to allow you to remain seated. You have just heard the reading of the charges, which are in accordance with the content of the arrest warrant you received. This means that you have been informed of the crimes of which you are accused. And this concludes the examination of the first point mentioned above. I will now turn to the second point, which concerns your rights as a suspect before this court. I will summarize some of these rights, which are of particular importance at this stage of the proceedings. Those rights are as follows. You can benefit from the assistance free of charge of a competent interpreter and benefit from the necessary translations to meet the requirements of fairness. You have the right to have the time and facilities necessary to prepare your defense and to communicate freely and confidentially with the counsel of your choice. You have the right to remain silent, and you cannot be forced to testify against yourself or to confess guilt. You can also make statements in your defense without taking an oath. In addition to any other disclosure provided for in the statute, the prosecutor must disclose to you, as soon as practicable, evidence in his possession or at his disposal that shows or tends to show your innocence or to mitigate your guilt, or that could undermine the credibility of the evidence against you. At the confirmation of charges hearing, you can contest the charges, challenge the evidence presented by the prosecutor, and present evidence. There will be no trial if the charges are not confirmed or if the proceedings against you are completed. You have the possibility to make an application for interim release pending trial. And finally, Mr. Duterte, you have the right to be informed as soon as possible and in detail of the nature, cause, and content of the charges in the language that you fully understand and speak. Counsel, have you understood?
Yes, we're listening, ma'am. We're listening, and before it ends, may we be allowed to present a manifestation on the circumstances behind the delivery of Mr. Duterte in this chamber.
Oui, Maître, je dois d'abord demander...
Yes, counsel. This is as part of the procedure. And as we've said since the very outset, I need to ask Mr. Duterte himself to make observations as to the condition of his surrender to the court and the conditions of his detention at the detention facility of the court since his arrival. If he can please tell us these details.
Thank you. Can I...
Oui, Maître. Oui.
The presiding judge. Yes, counsel.
Please. 2 days ago, the whole world has witnessed the degrading fashion in which a former president of a sovereign country was bundled into a private aircraft and summarily transported to The Hague. To us lawyers, this would be called an extrajudicial rendition. To the less legally inclined, it was a pure and simple kidnapping. My client was denied all access to the legal recourse in the country of his citizenship, and this all in the nature of political score settling. Two troubled entities struck an unlikely alliance, an incumbent president who wished to neutralize and choke the legacy of my client and his daughter on the other hand, and a troubled legal institution subject to delegitimization and desperate for a price cuts and a legal show today on the other hand. With this in mind, it is not surprising that my client was abducted from his country. ICC private jets do not drop out of the thin air. That jet which received my client was coordinated in advance. The UAE is not a state party to the ICC and has no obligation to cooperate with the court. Yet my client sat in transit in that country for more than 5 hours. I invite the registry's representative to present today in court to explain to the judges exactly how they believe this transfer was anything other than a gross abuse of process. Given the precipitous arrival of my client, an elderly man with debilitating medical issues, hard of hearing and poor of sight, he was taken to a hospital for observation. Only this morning have I met him for the first time with less than an hour to discuss legal issues. I have not been able to present him with a hard copy of the arrest warrant because we were not supplied with such. I have not even been able to explain to him what the prosecution requested when seeking the issuance of the arrest warrant. This is because the chamber only established a redacted version of the prosecution request last night. Other than to identify himself, my client is not able to contribute anything to this hearing. Most importantly, he is not able even to tell you that he has been informed of the charges as contained in the arrest warrant for a reason more pertinent to which I alluded in my written request to this honorable pretrial chamber this morning, and which is confidential in nature. Accordingly, I repeat my respectful request, which was rejected this morning, to postpone the substantive aspect of this hearing to the next week, when I will have the opportunity to sit with my client and to explain to him what a confirmation hearing is and what the disclosure is, and how the prosecution alleges that he committed crimes. I thank the court for its attention and regret to say that I do not have instructions to continue my submission any further today. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel. Now, with regard to the health issues of Mr. Duterte, I believe that the court has taken specific measures with regard to his health situation, and I note that subsequent to his arrest and when he arrived at the detention center, the court's doctor was of the opinion that you were fully mentally aware and fit, and that you have undergone further checks and tests at the detention facility. And when you broached health matters, that's saying that you were not able to come to the hearing, the doctors who consulted with you were of the opinion that Mr. Duterte was not in a position to come to the hearing physically, but that if he gave a written permission, he would be able to take part via video link. Now, that is with regard to the health matters that you just mentioned. They are very important, especially concerning the matter of age. Now, with regard to the rights of Mr. Duterte, we have before us the registrar's or the registry's report that says that Mr. Duterte has been informed of his rights, including Articles 66 and 67 of the Rome Statute, and that that he is aware of his rights and that he is also aware of the charges against him. We have before us the report of the registry saying that he was also aware of the warrant of arrest in the English language and that he is very well versed in the English language. Once again, you have the possibility of these charges being read in English, which was the case today. I have read to you in the French language the rights that he has, Mr. Duterte, before this court, and I'd like to specify once again that this is an initial hearing in order for Mr. Duterte to be aware of his rights and the charges against him. And then there will be a full procedure that will unfurl leading up to the confirmation of charges that will enable Mr. Duterte to raise all the matters that you have just raised with regard to the warrant of arrest, with regard to the crimes committed, with regards to the charges, and any other matters associated with his arrest, and the matters of jurisdiction of the court. You have the opportunity to do this throughout these proceedings leading up to the actual confirmation of charges hearing. Now, counsel, with regard to your request for another hearing to be held next week, well, your initial request, that was, this was not accepted by the court. Now, you have seen the two decisions of the court that have been disclosed to you, and you are aware of the fact that these two decisions were refused. And this is by dint of the fact that this first initial appearance hearing does not need much preparation, as I have said to you on a number of occasions. I am now going to move on to the third stage, which is to set the date for the confirmation of charges hearing. After assessing all factors, including the need for the parties and participants to adequately prepare, as well as Mr. Duterte's rights, including his right to be tried within a reasonable time, the date for the commencement of the confirmation of charges hearing is September the 23rd, 2025. I would add that in accordance with Rule 1217 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, this date may be postponed by the Chamber depending on the progress of the proceedings, either on its own motion or at the request of the prosecutor or the defence. Before concluding this hearing, I would like to inform the parties of the next procedural steps. First, I would like to recall that in accordance with Rule 1212B of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, the Chamber holds status conferences to ensure a small exchange of information under satisfactory conditions. These conferences are organised either ex officio or at the request of the prosecutor or the defence. Secondly, a set of decisions will be taken in a timely manner to ensure that the proceedings progress smoothly and expeditiously. More specifically, I am referring in particular to a decision on the arrangements and procedure for the disclosure of evidence, and a decision setting a timetable for the disclosure of evidence in such a way as to ensure orderly and efficient disclosure between the parties. In this regard, the Chamber orders the prosecutor to begin disclosing today the information on the basis of which the warrant of arrest was issued, and to complete this disclosure no later than within the next 7 days. The Chamber will also issue a decision on the participation of the victims who, according to the statute of the court and to the extent permitted by the Chamber, are authorised to present their views and concerns at this stage of the proceedings. We have come to the end of Mr. Duterte'S first appearance hearing. I would like to thank all the participants in this hearing, the interpreters and the stenographers. This concludes today's hearing.